Documenting versus Recording by Chief Sophia of Americana Band of Indians. August the 8th, 2025. Documenting versus Recording in the Nerd Society. As we continue down the path of understanding how to gain the consensus of the nerds, the next logical step is to create fertile ground for the nerds to bloom. What does this look like exactly? One of the first steps is to properly document and record grievances to be addressed. There's a difference between documenting and recording when it comes to society. Although they have widely been accepted as the same in this day, the past understood these were different. Documenting is what we do on X all day. We see lots of messages, retweet some, comment on some, and repost what we want to bring emphasis. This is not the same as recording. Recording is when we take what has been documented and put additional emphasis on it, in this case, testifying of it to the creator. I have always done this naturally, so I'm going to break it down for the reader or listener. When you document something, it is like taking a note. Documenting is gathering of facts, information, and data for further analysis. Documenting does not emphasize an emotional response. Recording something is that analysis. Recording is the emotional conclusion of the analysis. If you have ever written an academic paper with citations, this is the exact process I'm speaking of. Everything you read does not make it into the final product of the paper, but it does influence your writing. You may be emotional while doing the research or documenting, but in the analysis or recording, you are objective and reasoned in your conclusions. When it comes time to record the documentation, this is when you pick out what is truly important to be remembered and acted upon. Recording differs from documentation in that there is an actual record to refer to. The problem of being chronically on social media is that people believe every documentation is a recording. This is why people believe prayer and mantras don't work. They believe they are recording something, but really they are documenting. Most people believe that mantras have to be said over 10,000 times to be activated. That is filling the record book up so that hopefully it will be documented. There are ways to record things, but we'll get to that a little later. Before that, let's discuss the mechanics. Documenting in the Old Testament uses the term mark. Psalm 129 or 130 and 3 says this: If you, O Lord, should mark my transgression, O Lord, who would stand? The Hebrew word for this is shamar, and it means to keep, guard, observe, heed, watch, and preserve. In the New Testament, it directly relates to sin. The Greek word harmaranto means to err, and it refers specifically to something you do to increase or decrease your chances at life. John 9 and 3 gives a great example of this. Jesus answered, Neither hath this man sinned nor his parents, but that the works of God be made manifest in him. In the case of documenting, the purpose is to show how you overcame something with the grace of God. When we proclaim on the internet that we did something, it is received better when we have the documented history of suffering that, quote unquote, the works of God be made manifest, quote unquote, in us. However, this has been weaponized by various sources to engage in sin, envy, jealousy, and malice. Because over documenting, which is the same as overthinking, does not guarantee recording. Most things done in excess do not yield good fruit. Therefore, we have to take the extra efforts necessary to balance what and why we record, just like we are charged to guard our thoughts. The emotions of recording something are evident in our culture. If you are emotional enough about an incident, it sells papers, and even politicians may discuss your story. As a black person, I know what usually comes from these interactions: no change in society. This is because the elites understand something you do not. When you are emotional, it is all encompassing. This means there is quite literally no room for the creator to intervene. Once we calm down, that is when we can usually get some results by recording the issue properly. Recording in the Old Testament is specifically a written account. Psalm 86 or 87 and 6 says this: the Lord shall describe it in a written account of the peoples and of the rulers, of those who were born in her. The Hebrew word is kathab, and it means to write, enroll, describe, prescribe, or record. In the New Testament, it's used to describe someone who bears witness. Jesus answered them, even if I bear witness of myself, my witness is true, for I know where I come from and where I am going. John 8 and 14. Jesus has four things that witness his truth: God the Father, John the Baptist, his works, and the Old Testament scriptures. This is the pattern or form for knowing if something is documented. It needs to have four witnesses. The promises of the Old Testament must be fulfilled in the New Testament. The Father allows the works of the Son to manifest. Recording is the testimony of the witnesses. To convert a documented thing into a recorded thing, all these steps must be followed. You have to observe the thing in society or in yourself. Then you have to document the thing, point out its violation of natural or spiritual law. After that, you have to write it down and report the issue. Could be a police report or even a video telling your story. Finally, you objectively call for a resolution. You can't skip any of the steps in the process because each step is your witness. Let's use a real life example of this. We canceled a contract called the Dumb Diverses. First, we observed that people seem to be stuck on a loop of trauma. In winter of 2022, it was the Cardi B and Megan the Boy Horse stories. This led to an interaction with a girl on YouTube that was less than favorable. She was actually pretty nasty to me. Knowing I had done nothing wrong to her, I pointed out that something must be interfering with our ability to collaborate. I made several videos documenting my behavior and pointing out how people were fighting for reasons that didn't make sense. Then we called for a resolution: canceling the Willie Lynch letter as a contract, canceling the Haitian Independence Declaration as a contract, canceling the Masonic Creed as a contract, and finally, canceling the Dumb Diverses as a contract. As a people, we do not need overlords to control our behavior. That was a simple conclusion without emotions. The result? Within 20 days of canceling the Dumb Diverses, the Vatican capitulated and apologized. If this process can work with something as old as the Dumb Diverses, which was written in the 1400s, then it can work with your situation. What is necessary to support the nerds is supporting their documentation and recording process. While I was doing these things spiritually, there was only one person who stood by me the whole time. This is not a process that can be done alone. Sometimes your comment on a post or video of a nerd is what keeps them going. While financial support is always preferable, emotional support is more valuable. Emotional support can never be lost or denied. Once you give it, it cannot be taken back. Money gets spent quickly, but that support lasts. Money gets spent quickly, but support lasts in the mind of the supported forever as a memory. The nerds are relentless in their documentation and reporting processes. We need everyone else to be relentless in their support. Shalom, peace and blessings, and we'll see you in the next video.